Also, can somebody give Hoovy knees for the love of God? It's like a weird He-Man action figure because it just, like, trundles out there because it has no knees and it only has hips. What is happening? Welcome back, everybody. It's Sunday night, and of course that means viewer games in Phobieland. And we have bees. Bees are being had. We also have a bunch of viewer games. I'm actually at the point where we're going to have to skip some and leave them for next week. What's good, chat? We'll see. Not too many. We did have a few people that decided to submit their entire game history once again. But, I mean, that happens. We're still waiting. All right, so first off, I am part of the content affiliate program. The Phobies team gives me coffee for producing Phobies content. You can probably see that in this very tiny piece that's here. What you also may see is I finally started putting stuff back in the details. But we're getting there. I was taking a lot of pictures. Doing a lot of toy photography in the last few days. I'm trying out some stuff that may end up going on YouTube once I iron out the process, but we'll see. That's not what I want to discuss. So before we get into everything, we are getting news in Phobieland. Specifically, there is now a new call out to the community. If you haven't seen it in the official Phobies Discord, it was recently posted at the time of this recording. It'll be old by the time this goes up on YouTube. But the time of this recording was literally posted today. That they're looking for more content affiliates. They're putting out the application. So if you've been producing Phobies content or you're interested in producing Phobies content, you'd probably want to check that out. Then you can get in on that sweet coffee infusion that I was referring to earlier. But what's interesting to me, aside from the fact they led off with Shiver Me Timbers, which I don't know if that's like, is the next expansion going to be a pirate theme? And like, I don't know why they said that. That was kind of odd to me. But the real thing that interests me is that, well, the application's open until June 30th, so you have some time. However, the fact that they are gearing up for this and they want to bring more people on board, my first thought was, what are they going to talk about? I mean, don't get me wrong. I think that there's a lot of Phobies content that is not being produced, including by me. I mean, I'm not producing a ton of Phobies content at this stage, but I think there's a lot of Phobies content that could be produced. If you just look at creators in other spaces for other games, it could be chess, it could be first-person shooters, it could be strategy games, it could be other games. You know, like, it doesn't matter. The point is that there's content that's being produced, types of content and things like that that could be getting made that are not being made right now. And it did, like, over the last however long I have been thinking about it, and I've thought about kind of shifting gears. But for me personally, I'm struggling because I'm still waiting to see what they're going to do. Calling back to this announcement, I think it's important that this came up and that this is happening, because why put a call out for more content creators unless you're going to have content to show off? Is it going to coincide with this June 30th date? I don't know. Am I reading too much into this? Possibly. But I think it's interesting. I think that there's cool stuff that might be coming around the corner. We'll have to see. It is a sign of life, though, which I think, I mean, we did get the notification from Boss however long ago. We have gotten other correspondences from the team. And I think that a lot of people do tend to put too much pressure on the Phobies team. But at the end of the day, we do need to hear things from them to know that things are moving forward. So this is good. Checking out the content creator applications requirements. I myself am looking towards making content about Phobies tournaments, hopefully manage to get PDL to have prizes. It would be pretty cool. I've talked about PDL before. I do like the idea. I have issues with it, but that's just from a logistical standpoint. Like me having run restrictive tournaments in the past, we'll say, which I think a draft would qualify as a restrictive tournament. I think there's challenges with it without investment from people. but I also am of the opinion there aren't enough people that are interested in these sort of things, as evidenced by the struggles that Monster of the Week has had. And again, I could put way more effort into trying to... There's always more effort that could be put in. But at a certain point, you have to weigh the options. And that's the way I'm looking at it. But either way, let's take a look at some viewer games, and we'll probably be talking about this as we go through. Now, as mentioned, there are several people who submitted multiple games. We're going to be skipping some of them. I think it comes out to like roughly 2 games a person. Although we're going to have, I think 6 unique people. We'll see. But anyway, let me find the right... Oh, God. Did you not favorite the goddamn game? Why do people do this? You even have favorited games that are broken on your profile. My brother in Christ, you're killing me here. All right, so first game. Oh, God. It is literally the very... I'm switching this so you can see it. It is literally the very last game on the profile. It's this one. I know you can't see the cursor, so I'm doing this to make it pulse. Very last game on the profile. Please, favorite your games. Favorite your games! But we're jumping in. Marky is our hero. Annoying early game Billy, as always. An ace at the end to counter Speedolas. All right, let's see what we got. Let's see what we got. Billy is the recent terror. God damn it, Marky. God damn it. For shame. I need a shame channel point reward thing so people can spam it. Shame. Shame. I also need to rotate the toy pictures in the channel point rewards because I haven't put up new ones in a while and I have a bunch of new toy pictures. I've been posting them into Discord. Like I said, I've been working on some projects. I've been feeling extremely burnt out lately. Like, it hit me this week. I had surgery this week, and then, like, as part of that, just, like, the recovery and just, like, the physical exhaustion, and it's, like, it kind of hit me, and now I felt, like, super burnt out the last couple days, so I was kind of just, like, taking it easy and doing whatever. And part of that was doing toy photography, because I'm like, you know what? I haven't done this in a while, and I just want to. So I sat down. Well, I was kneeling on the floor and had to make space, and I had to spend a few hours cleaning up first because obviously, like, the detox and stuff are a disaster. But anyway, there's the Billy. We finally entered the stage of the game where the latest terror of Phobiedom has entered the fray. Okay, so I noticed something weird about Billy's model, and I'm going to tell people to watch it. So look at his right hand. Our left, stage right. As compared to his left hand, where there's clearly a hole where the flames are coming out of when they extinguish, and you'll see it when they extinguish. This hand does not look like it's coming out of the hole. It looks like it's just burning in front of it, like somebody cut it in Photoshop and they like pasted it over but didn't move it to the right spot. You'll know what I'm talking about when you see it, and then you will be unable to unsee it. See the hole? And then see how much lower it is? It just doesn't... It's not right. It's not right. Shame. Bestia competed in the redacted. What is redacted? I don't know what that means. I've studied the in-game sprites for Phobies. Many look quite messy. I think that's on purpose. Some Phobies look sketchy-y. I mean, it's supposed to be... Part of it is the charm, but I think that is just a mistake. Or an error with the way the model looks. I don't think that is an intentional error. You know what I mean? Like, I understand what you're saying. Some of them are crafted to look that way, and I don't think this is one of them. I think it's just off. The only thing I could see is, like, if you argue the hand is supposed to be tilted forward, you know, like it's pointed towards the camera a little bit, so that it changes, like, the angle of perspective. The dog is going bananas upstairs. I don't know what's going on. I assume my wife is just playing with him, but, like, I can hear him run. I don't know if people are going to hear it. He's, like, going ridiculous. Like, he's losing his mind up there. He's running around all over the place. Maybe he just has the zoomies. Cut Spawn, what's your opinion on Billy? Okay, so Billy is, I think... How do I put this? I'm trying to think of the right way to phrase it. I believe Billy is something that shouldn't have never happened from a design perspective. We talked about it before, that I think that as a game designer, I'm an amateur game designer. And when I say that, I mean it in every sense of the word. I'm doing it for the lulz. Like, I design games. I do have one that I kind of want to, I'm hoping to release by the end of the summer. I need to do a lot more play testing. But there are things when you get in a designer mindset where it's, okay, well, we've set up these rules for the game. And one of the best things you can do for games is break your own rules, because it makes things interesting. It's like, oh, well, you only get 3 or 5 keys a turn. Well, what if you got extra? Enter Jammy Fish. Okay, well, the baseline is everything is like it's 2 range or melee. Well, what if we had a 3 ranger? Oh, we saw how 3 rangers work. Jar is fine. Chuck is fine. Innocuous, not so much. But you can see how they play around with the rules. And Billy is another extension of that, where it's, well, everything baseline gets 2 actions. What if, and then you could argue, like, 1 move melees are like, they technically get like half actions because they don't get to move as much. You know what I mean? Like, there's a little bit of granularity there. But Billy is kind of the natural extension of that, where it's, well, what if we had a phobie that had 3 actions? And I think that there are certain rules of the game from a design perspective that need to be sacrosanct, that they cannot be breached, because you end up in scenarios where things will just ultimately be a problem. Now, maybe Billy can be solved with numbers. You know, like, maybe if he just has less health. Well, I don't think health is going to be the issue. I think the damage output is really the problem. Because of his movement, it's going to be very difficult to solve him. And I think that there's an argument for Billy. He does tend to prevent stalls, hypothetically, because he allows for this harassing offense where you get in, you poke, you get away. Your opponent must move. They can't stay there, because if they do, you'll slowly bleed them out, right? Nice multi-hit from Sabian here. That is all well and good in theory, but I think in practice it doesn't quite work out. Now, the reality is, unless the new Dream Team from the Phobies team changes how they want to operate. This is a great turn, by the way. This is a great turn from Marky. Gotta love whenever Wooly Bully connects too. Unless the design team has a massive change in philosophy, it's not like we're going to delete Billy from the game. I think people would be outraged to begin with. So the question becomes, how do you fix it? And I don't think they're going to do like a big redesign and say, okay, well, Billy now does this totally different thing. I think it's just going to be nerf him into oblivion and hope that people don't get pissed. A passive lock on his 3-action passive? I don't really understand what that looks like. I mean, if they turned it into an activated ability that, like, key cost increases 6 to 7. I think the first question that has to be answered, is it okay for a phobie to ever have 3 actions? And then you determine a cost. I mean, it's a little late. But personally, I would have said, no, it's never okay for a Phobie to have 3 actions. Like, that's ridiculous. But... I mean, if you changed it so, like... Imagine on Billy's first turn of play, doesn't get his 3 actions immediately. That's what the lock will do. I don't like that. I think if you changed it to an activated ability that said Billy gets 2 extra actions this turn or something. The problem with that is the wording would get very, very weird. Because if you assume, like, the goal is to give him 3 actions in a single turn, right? So if you activate it, you'd have to give 2 actions because it costs an action to use. Or maybe, like, you just say this doesn't use an action on the ability. That would get really weird. But that's a level of redesign that I think is problematic. I wish they stopped making the meta worse with new phobies. I think the meta is healthier now than it has arguably ever been. My counter-argument to anybody who feels that this meta is not good compared to previous ones is technically Boss Gonzo was broken for like 2 years and nobody noticed. That was the weirdest sound effect. Have we never heard Ace actually punch something? Or is that like an Easter egg? I mean, it's Easter and all, but like... Of course, has made it a point to not heavily nerf Billy due to him being the last update to offer Phobie. Many people bought him and probably isn't the best idea to nerf him in the ground because of that. I think that's a terrible way to balance games. I absolutely understand, but that is a horrendous way to balance games, and you should never balance games based around the monetary value of things. I understand that that happens, and I recognize that many companies will do that, but I think it's a very dangerous path to take. Because the goal of game balance is to have a balanced game. When you start adding additional goals and targets into that, it complicates the equation and modifies what the actual intent is. So if you originally started with, I want to have a balanced game, but now... And whatever we could debate again, like we've had the debate about balance tons of time, but like, let's just take the most basic definition of like, the game is designed to be played and it is quote unquote fair. We could define what that means later. And now you're introducing, well, we can't let it be unfair for this other reason, which is unrelated to gameplay. Notably, how much money people have put in. It's going to change the goals and incentives for why and when you do things. So while I absolutely understand, my answer to people that bought, like, if somebody asked me, I mean, I wouldn't put it this way in an official statement, but I would say it sucks to suck. You spent money and you had your fun. Now it's time to change it. And yes, it is easy for me to say that. I didn't buy Billy. It's also easy for me to say that because I'm not the person who would have to make those decisions. I didn't mean to get out of Marky's profile. We got one more Marky game. But at the end of the day, I firmly believe they should not make balanced decisions based on whether people bought stuff. Be more careful before you release it, A, is one answer. And B, the other answer is the health of the entire game is more important than the individuals, or should be. And realistically, that is not how it works, because the whales who bought Billy are more important probably than the rest of the ecosystem. It's a tough thing to solve for. But speaking of tough, we're going to talk about Coolrophobia and Marky once again. Very close game. We'll see. We'll see. I don't know if a key increase solves the Billy problem. It certainly helps. But I think we need to define what is the problem with Billy. Because if the issue is like, and a lot of car suggestions are focused on, as they should be, opportunity costs. Where, okay, well, we increase the key cost. That means that you need to make X investment, and now it's a larger investment in trying to put this phobia on the board and create this asset for gameplay. And that is a logical way to go about it. The challenge is, if the problem is it is never fun to play against a 3-action phobia because of the gameplay loop. Like, there's a point where it doesn't matter if it costs 20 keys, it's still unfun to play against. And now we're debating, do we just make it unplayable? And I don't know if Billy is there. It's a very difficult thing to ascertain. What the hell is bad guy doing? Oh, okay. All right. Also, talking on your point of the Boss Gonzo meta, I think this new meta is much more diverse, but still is bad. It can be bad in different ways. Wait, what? Oh, I guess because now it's out of range of the Inoculus, and then you have to walk the Inoculus into range of the Hevo on the stim and Stabby. And the Gin Sting. Like, I was talking about a totally different game with somebody else yesterday, I want to say, through Discord. And we were debating back and forth about, I honest to God don't even remember what the point was. But we were debating back and forth about something, and they're like, well, this thing isn't true because of blah. That challenge play wouldn't have worked, right? Yeah, you couldn't have hit the Bachelor. Like, if you hit the Bachelor first with the Gin Sting, then with the Hevo, it would have pulled it onto the lava instead of onto the stim, I'm pretty sure. But anyway, to finish the point I was making. So, the idea was just this. We were debating about whatever, and I'm like, well, X is X. And they're like, no, X is Y. I'm like, well, two things can be true. Like, the thing you're saying, you know, something could be bad and something else could be bad, but just because one is bad doesn't make the other good. They can both be bad, and vice versa. If one thing is good and something else is good, they can both be good. Not just only one thing can be good. So regarding the metas and which is better or worse, it's all going to come down to opinion about gameplay patterns and things like that. But I usually throw out the Boss Gonzo thing to illuminate the idea that, you know what? We as players don't know everything. The devs obviously don't know everything. And we can both make mistakes because Boss Gonzo was there since literally the inception of the game. And yet it somehow wasn't this dominant problem for everybody under the sun until it suddenly was. And I usually also bring it up when we talk about nerfs and we talk about changes, and this is why I like Karst documents. They don't simply... And I'm not saying people need to have an opinion on every single phobia in the game or every single facet of the game, but it does help to consider if we change X, we probably need to also address Y, because the new world in the absence of the original X is going to be different. We're going to have different threats. We're going to have different answers. And the tempo and scope of the game change because of all of the moving parts. And people love Muffin tonight. Down goes Gin Sting. I feel like the last turn from our hero could have been executed a little better, but I don't know. I don't love the Honey Bear strat. I will point out, I complain about this map all the time. I really hate this map. And one of the main reasons is because of Walk the Turret. Now, our hero didn't really go with the Walk the Turret across the bottom. To a degree they did because of the Hevo, but it obviously didn't succeed. And B, it was a little different because it was a Hevo. It wasn't just, you know, trying to speed a Stabby across the bottom, which I guess speed is relative here. However, I will say that in the general context of Walk the Turret, this was defended, it was deflected. Obviously, our hero is going to walk away with a W. But I think it's worth calling out because this is a map that is often maligned for that being the ideal strategy. And I know Carson and other people have suggested that it can be countered and that it is somewhat trivial to counter. Maybe it didn't work out here, but it is something to consider. Now we're getting real scrappy. The bad guy just doesn't have enough stuff. Doesn't have enough stuff. They're in range of things. And, by the way, our hero has sucky, so, like, you got the additional life leech. Cars made a new section in his doc called the 3 layers. Each layer specifies different phobies that would become problematic when the phobies in the other layers are dealt with. Layer 1, for example, has everything currently in the meta. Layer 2 has the Sentinels. I'm already confused because how are the Sentinels not in Layer 1? Admittedly, I know Kars has put in a lot of effort as of late to spur discussion on maps. As well as the various documents that he's put together. And I do appreciate the degree and level of effort that Karst has put in. But I'm going to have to read that because that doesn't make sense to me that the current metaphobies and then the Sentinels are not part of the current metaphobies. Like, one of the biggest complaints people have right now is Shove Shark and Sentinels. But it still comes down to, and I've talked about this on many occasions before, what do the devs want the game to be? Like, what is the core gameplay loop? And what is the expectation for quantities of phobies that are going to be meta viable? Because that then allows them to plan out the next releases of, okay, we expect this phobie or phobies to disrupt things in this way. They're going to introduce this new gameplay loop, this new play pattern, this new line. They're going to displace these other phobies because they're just better than this. They're going to provide an alternative to these phobies because they're in the same, grouping. Or they're going to, they're just for funsies because, look, every release has some bad phobies. There are a lot of bad phobies in the game. And the question is it okay to have bad phobies? How many? And that sort of thing. And I still don't understand what the devs want on any of those fronts. Because if they, again, like maybe they think the Sentinel gameplay loop, and they have mentioned based on the comments from Boss, that they are okay with, we will change things because the community likes it, even if we disagree. And I think that's good. But when you now have contradictory goals, it's going to lead to continued problems down the line where the devs are designing for game A, but they're really, like, in their mind, they're designing for game A. But in actuality, they're designing for game B, what the players want, and those are not necessarily the same thing. So we're going to continue to have these phobies that are going to fall out of line. And I think that's good that they're pushing the envelope, that they're trying to get to these points where it's, oh, these are new and unique things. But we do have a level of, we got to figure out, like, what is the baseline that we're working from? What are we trying to work towards other than, well, let's have a good game? Well, yes, obviously. Oh my God, with the, oh, nope. We do have the saver to game moves. All right, let me just make sure this is the right one. Oh, I looked at the wrong line. Looked at the wrong line momentarily. Noobsim on the most hated map in the game, Xylo, one of the most hated maps. Against Conrad Kurz, apparently a resident Warhammer enjoyer. Earlier than expected, how is it the match for and post break? Noobsim, are you okay? Are you having a stroke? What does that mean? I think noobsim is coming back from a break from playing the game and asking, how was my play? But, like, I don't know what that means. If I'm correct, the reasoning for Sentinels not being layer 1 is because stuff like Doc, I assume Doc Holiday, is way easier to play. It's way easier to play Attractor, Push being weak, Chevelle moments, or Repeller sees no use, etc. You'd not believe the amount of complaints for Sentinels have gone down. Like, almost no one complains about them. I mean, I do agree. Okay, so that makes more sense. I can recognize and accept a world where people are saying Doc Holiday, Billy, etc. are more problematic. And I will stand by the statement I made a few moments ago where I do feel that it is good that the devs are pushing the envelope and making more powerful, more unique phobies. The problem is when it's wildly out of line, which we've kind of had, is when things start going south. So I can accept that tiering system then. And I think it is indicative of exactly, or not necessarily indicative, it is exactly what I was saying a few minutes ago, that at the end of the day, what? All right, I mean, I don't hate this play. I guess I don't hate it. At the end of the day, there needs to be considerations for multiple levels of phobies so that you aren't just getting like you're creating or reintroducing problems. Cars taught me there's a very niche spot you can place Chuck on for Xylo to chip away at their heart. We've seen some cute Xylo plays. Remember when Hevo 2.0 was the meta on this map? It was the best play you could make because everybody would get on this center line where Stabby and Jar Cannon are, and then you'd be like, oh, well, I'll boop your heart, and then just pop whatever you had into the pit. It was a long time ago, wasn't it? A long time ago. I'm a little surprised that Bad Guy didn't dive the Innocuous with Murder Wing and Pterodactyl. I mean, I kind of get it. Odds are your opponent has keys. You're going in on their vault. There's a lot of... What? The Mildred? I don't recall I was a Doomsday player before the new meta hit. It was, I don't remember the last time I watched a Xylo game. I gotta be honest. It's been a long time since we watched Xylo, and I have to... I'd be remiss if I didn't say that I was okay with never seeing Xylo again. You got a little Russell action to counter the Mildred, I guess. That trick still works with Repeller nowadays, even in some Volfears. I mean, it always technically worked with Repeller. There is a level of... I have to imagine a lot of Phobies players either currently do or previously enjoyed chess, right? And at the end of the day, chess is a very cerebral game. You're trying to manipulate your opponent with 100% perfect information. Like, they know everything that you know, with the exception of what's in your head. Uh-oh. SpaghettiOs. It's raining cats. Hallelujah. It's raining cats. Squish the spider. Got him. The reason I bring up chess is, like, the cat and mouse game, the positioning battle of trying to manipulate your opponent 8 moves in advance to stand in a certain position so you can repeller their dude into the pit. Sounds interesting and engaging until you have to actually play it out. And then it ends up being kind of miserable for everyone involved. But it does kind of beg the question, again, what is the Phobies game we're designing for? What are we trying to build the game to look like as what is the end state regular gameplay loop? You have a $10 Google Play gift card chilling in your pocket for 6 hours now? You make it sound like 6 hours is this extraordinary length of time to not have utilized a gift card. I can't believe we got 2 Mildred hits. Kablamo. Do you think Mildred... You ever heard of the card game Exploding Kittens? I wonder if Mildred... I mean, Mildred is clearly supposed to be the creepy cat lady, right? But I wonder if it had anything to do with Exploding Kittens. Morty just ruining Happy. Ruh-roh, bad guy. That's a juiced up Inoculus. Seemingly not enough damage. There we go. We did it. We got there. You know when Daisy comes out that things have gotten really scrappy? It definitely feels like Daisy and other Resurrects. It's just like, shit, I don't know what else to put on the board. We'll put a Resurrect out there. Although Bad Guy admittedly put one on the board very early for... I don't know what reason. Oh, excuse me. Like I said, this week took a lot out of me. I was expecting Frosty. Yeah, Frosty's another one that's on the list. Of this is so powerful. The thing is, and this goes back to what I was describing earlier, I'm repeating the same points, but at a certain stage, you have to have powerful things, quote-unquote, overpowered things, in order to make a game fun. It's like, oh, I get to do this super cool thing. Great snipe of Morty there. Bad guy in shambles. GG. Very well played, noobsim. And welcome back? Question mark? I'm not really clear. The notes were confusing. GG. But you need powerful, potentially unfair things to, like, you know, make a game interesting. And I don't know if Frosty is in the unhealthily overpowered category as compared to just simply overpowered. Like, it is incredibly powerful to do things with Frosty. It is also very satisfying to set up, and your opponent, it isn't just a board-wide freeze or something. You know, your opponent can play around it. There's limitations on it, but they can play around it. And the way this ties back to my earlier points is the devs need to decide what is the level that's acceptable, and can we get everything to that level? Do we bring everything down to that level? Do we bring everything up to that level? Do we just introduce new things and power creep out the old things? There's a lot of different ways to handle it. But step one is identifying and codifying what is the baseline. Like I said, I don't know what that is right now. What I do know is that apolloknox is our next game. Thank you for your honest reviews. I love watching them on a weekly basis. Keep up the good work. I wouldn't go so far as to say it's good work. I tend to be pretty critical of my own stuff, and I don't feel I do a great job, but I do appreciate the kind words. I will say that. A lot of the time, I'm not even really paying attention to the game. It's like background noise to whatever we're rambling about. I do try and make sure that I call out cool stuff, but sometimes like we're getting into like these conversations that we've been having where I'm just more focused on that than what was happening in the game. Fun fact, there's only one nerf being proposed for Frosty, and that nerf is just to make its key lock go from 1 to 2 turns. I mean, that's fine. It's one of those things that at the end, by the way, this is only an 18-turn game. This is a pretty quick game. It's one of those things that at the end of the day, a lot of people are just not going to be impacted by the balance. This is going to sound insulting, and I was actually told by somebody to not be as elitist, but I don't care. Most people are not good enough to get impacted by balance. Which sounds a little weird because obviously if they're not good and somebody uses a quote-unquote overpowered phobie against them, they're not going to be good enough to overcome it. But odds are if that phobie was appropriately balanced, they probably get bodied anyway because they're not good enough to win the game. There's another Billy. And I say that as somebody who's, like, now I'm definitely not good at this game. I haven't played this game forever. I do want to, but it is still in the category of, like, they need something to give me a reason to play. And I'm not saying people shouldn't play Phobies. I'm not saying that there's no reason to play Phobies. But a lot of the time, the games are not meaningful. And I'll spend forever in queue to get a meaningful game. And then it's like, okay, I played one game this week that was good. That was what it kind of felt like when I stopped playing. So Bluely in action, try and cure the noxious poison. Remember when Bluelian was super busted? I think that's something that's worth calling out, because Kars did say this before the Akira nerf way back when, that just like a one-turn lock would be sufficient. Oh, the heebie-jeebies special. We love to see those around these parts. But a single lock on things, like one turn longer on the warm-up, one turn longer on the cooldown, these sort of things can dramatically change the effectiveness of a phobie. We are cooking that statue. For reasons unknown. And now the grave. Why is the... Well, at this point, our hero probably could just break that statue and heebie-jeebies special it again, so I do appreciate Bad Guy putting their own Gravedigger on the board to open up another pathway, assuming that happens. But it's now a, 5-2 panic point advantage. Our hero in a fairly commanding lead from panic point standpoint. Adding Smiley to the team for reasons unknown. Chad, what do you think if Ash got a 3 range? Would Ash be as bad as Phantom if it had a 3 range? The reason I thought of it is I was just thinking about, well, like, how cool would it be if Miss Moffat was Ash and you could move that Smiley around, which you could do with Phantom. I don't think the poll logic, the poll priority, is problematic, complicated, or penalizing enough to make 3 poll Ash not an issue. If Ash got a 3 range poll, the shenanigans would be real. I don't think she'd be as bad. Well, but that's the thing is, like, remember Phantom? The 3 pull? This teleport being 4 tiles? It technically could be 4 tiles. I'm very leery about it because we've seen what extensive range self-movement can be. Speaking of Frosty, but I do wonder, would Ash be a quote-unquote healthy Phantom, a quote-unquote healthy self-displacement, if it had 3 range? I also do think Ash should put herself in much more dangerous situations, whereas Phantom can just chill in the back. Kind of. I mean, by definition, Ash will be more exposed than Phantom is. Because Phantom, you could just plop the guy in front of you, and it's literally sitting in between you and whatever. Whereas Ash has to, like, awkwardly position on the side and then yoink. Meaning that both are going to be exposed, but that isn't inherently a drawback. It isn't necessarily a problem that you have to be next to the thing. Or you end up next to the thing. What? Why? Also, can somebody give Hoovy knees for the love of God? It's like a weird He-Man action figure because it just, like, trundles out there because it has no knees and it only has hips. What is happening? The disease doing its work. We do have a diseased poison ginseng. You don't see those every day. By the way, we also don't see paddles every day. I don't know why any of these things have happened. Clopster. Going for the heart kill. I mean, bad guy played it just a little too patient. Admittedly, the heebie-jeebie special played a significant portion. Played into that pretty heavily. I do love the sound effect on Billy, though. The pew 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 noise that he makes is super cool. Like, I don't know if it's just a downshifted pew 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 or what. Like, I don't know how they made that sound effect, but I do like it. I will say that I enjoy it. It is pleasing to me. Yoink. I would say bad guy's in a pretty decent position, but, well, we know how this ends. It ends with a 7-0 panic point advantage. Oh, 6-1, I'm sorry. Bad guy had one. But GG, well played. We do have another apolloknox game. apolloknox apparently taking on all the big kids. Got Hope Lloyd, now we got Karth. Hope you're having a wonderful time. Keep smiling. Stay blessed. You as well, apolloknox. Keep smiling. Haven't heard that in a while. Oh my god, I just got a message in a Discord group chat that I haven't seen in months. It was very quiet. What? Probes a lot. Sir probes a lot. Should he have gotten like a night visor or something? When it's Sir like that, it feels like it's supposed to be a title, meaning like you are a knight or something. A lord, if you will. You don't see that animation very often. Pretty cool. The bad guy being pretty aggressive about their one key placement. Wow, Flail could not one-shot Rusty. Requires the extra help from Henrietta there. Picking off a couple keys here and there. Panic point advantage hero. I wonder what's the general consensus on Bad Sheep. You mean Bad Sheep? I like Bad Sheep. But I think there's just way better things to do right now. There's a reality where I could see it being a staple phobie in a similar vein to Noxious. Wait, does poison break the shield? Attacks or abilities. So I assume, like, so say your guy got poisoned, then you force field it. It would soak the poison, I think. But yeah, I think Bad Sheep could become a staple phobie in a modified world. I don't think that's unreasonable. Just because of the range on the ability. Now, arguably, you could say the same thing about Flesh Crawler, but it costs one less. It applies a status effect that requires your opponent to address it. You know, there's other factors. One thing I never understand is why people always go for the one key on, I assume, Stim on Ergo, and why not just have it sit back? Why waste the one key instead of keeping it in the back for the next trade? In this particular case, I think it's because Karth is, like, level gazillion. So for them, the turnover on games is probably worth it. Like, look at it this way, and we've talked about this a lot before. It's very easy for people to go, oh, well, that player's not good. They only win because they have a billion levels. And that might be true. Maybe the high-level players are really bad. But we don't know. And if you think about it from just a game theory perspective, in their mind, they know that they're higher level than everybody, and they're probably just going to crap on everyone because it doesn't matter what they do. Most of the time. So what they may be doing is just trying to turn over games as quick as possible. And it's like, will this... Like, if I was trying to play this for real, would I push the one key to attack their heart? No. But odds are I out-level their stuff by such an enormous amount that who cares? Like, I'll probably just kill them anyway. At least that's my thought. My expectation for how they would handle this stuff. So Hevo 3.0 coming out to play. Hevo with a force field coming out to play. Presumably force field takes hits from Stabby's Reflect? I guess? But it's a triple panic point advantage for our hero. Bad Omen and 4 keys and a dream. Yeah, I know Carr said that they recently got probes a lot, which is kind of interesting. We'll see how old Proby does. Getting the big hit onto Phobies here. Noxious and Bad Omen. The problem is that Hevo is sort of exposed, and big power down is maybe in Bad Guy's future. Attacks from Phobies that have been bronied count towards the shield charges. That doesn't sound right. I don't doubt you. Also, I love the way the shield animation changes once it's been hit. That's very important. I don't doubt that that is true. But that does not sound like it should work that way. Because they aren't actually doing damage, so you're not preventing anything. I get why it would be coded that way, and why it would work that way. but I don't believe that it should. 2-to-1 panic point advantage. 2 keys remaining for our hero. Doing their best to put on pressure onto bad guy. Gonna inch up and clear out the corn. Oh, it lives. You hate to see it. Rusty? I mean, I get it. Kinda. Power down corn doing some level 1 status damage. Probably less, honestly. Isn't its baseline like 360? Bad guy on the ropes. Ooh. Trying to body block in the Hevo. I don't love the Rusty as the 1 key of choice here regardless, but we are getting a force field. Down goes Bo, but that means the stim is open. Panic point advantage. And our hero closes the game out. Death by Tickles. The Tickle monster is real. And he just beats your ass. Get at me. I don't know. Something like that. All right. I did see the notes for this game as I was loading up the stream. Whoops. This one's funny. All right, we go from some shorter games to longer one here from nuclrardeath. And I mentioned it right before we loaded in, but I did see the notes as I was loading up the stream. Starts out super boring, but it gets more interesting, I promise. Also, I now pronounce my username like nuclrardeath because of these streams, Lamau. I'm glad I have that level of influence on you. Well, maybe not. I don't know if I should, but that is funny. There's also a world where it's a D. Nuclrardeath. This is the Dozer game? Way to spoil it. God damn it, PVZ. I had to time you out. I guess I could have just not read chat. Certainly not out loud. That's the funny thing about being a streamer is one of the things that I had to train myself to do, and it took a little bit, was to read chat out loud. Because your natural inclination as you're reading something is to read it. Not necessarily orate it for the benefit of the stream, but like when you're reading something, because I'll get this when I watch other streams. If somebody does not do that, and you could tell they're looking at chat, but then they respond, the response doesn't typically explain, it can, but it doesn't often explain or inform what they were responding to. So if it's just, you know, they're reading chat, and then they laugh, they go, that's absolutely right. It's like, what's absolutely right? All right, Dozer. I backread the main chat a lot. It's fine, PVZ, it's okay. We do, in fact, have a Dozer. I don't remember the last time we saw a Dozer. Also, Dozer is like, look at his idle animation and tell me that guy isn't exhausted just standing there. Like, he is out of breath just straight up fucking standing there. Per Nuclear himself, he used to run Dozer on this map a lot. Why? I feel like we did see another Dozer game on this map. This feels very old. With a tractor sitting out here, we got corn sitting out here. We're puking on a cat. You know, just normal things on a Sunday for Phobies. Goon. We're down to 4 keys for our hero already. I do appreciate this. So I will call this out as a cool play. I don't know if this is intentional. But I do think that puking on it, leaving it there in a vulnerable state is good because it gives you something to angle Goon off of. So you can picture him about to sling a slap shot just by rotating around and all the angles that are available. Now bad guy has to back off for fear of the threat of it. And of course, because it is so weak, you can just pick it off trivially whenever you want to. Now, all that being said, bad guy still has 11 keys. And it's not as though our hero has a panic point advantage. So the Goon Blom did not present itself as a potential option. And I do like how our hero positioned the 2 important phobies towards the north of the map in a way that even if they get pulled, it is really unlikely that they're gonna actually die here. Frosty. Got a little hack and slash action. The Blom to soften up the Frosty. The Marshmallow to connect. And then Sizzle to try and thaw everything. We've been seeing a lot of Sizzle as counters to Frosty. So this will get a pull. This is a really sick Blom. Yikes. That is not what you want to see as our hero right now. Bad guy's feeling pretty good after that one. Bad guy's feeling pretty good. 0 keys to 0 keys. So Sizzle is going to thaw Gravedigger immediately. That's interesting. So we get the block here that reduces surface area on Dozer. This forces all the damage to end up landing on Goon, who is fairly tanky himself, as one would expect a Goon to be. But now we get the immediate thaw. We're getting Dozer out of there. We're popping AWOL, and we're going for it. Dozer's waddling his fat ass up there. Look at this stupid haircut. Dozer's got a stupid haircut. Oh, that woke you up, huh, Dozer? I just downed an entire can of tea. Like Arizona iced tea? Or are you talking like regular hot caffeinated tea that comes in cans? Because that would be weird. I was very confused for a second. I'm like, since when does tea come in cans? Arizona iced tea, fair. Very well played by nuclrardeath here. Down goes a tractor. I need to lay down now. I hope you're all right. Could potentially get a freeze inbound. It's unlikely. Probably just going to pummel the heart at 869 damage a clip. The positioning from the sizzle here means that you, well, you get the kill anyway. I was going to say that you can't recap the panic point, but then you could have gotten a freeze if the Frosty player got another turn, but it wouldn't have mattered because for lots of reasons they were dead. But GG. Well played. All right. So now we're hitting the point in the stream. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to do 2 of Painful Fate's games because they submitted like 80 games. We'll save the rest. So we'll do the first 2. All right, so game number 1 from Painful Fate. I don't know what to say other than I don't know why Misanthrope is the MVP. First of all, Misanthrope should never get MVP. I feel like bloat. I mean, it's right there in the name. It is right there in the name. I'm very tired, chat. I am exhausted. It's going to be a long week. I was debating going to a big tournament this coming weekend, skipping streaming and stuff, but like it's just going to be way too much effort, I think. If I can figure out a way to take a train, because it's very far away. There's the Misanthrope. I realize we're breaking Rule 5 of the viewer games, 1 match per player. That one is always, well, not always, but it's been suspended on many, many streams just because we don't have enough people submitting games anymore. It was important before when we had 50, 60, 70 games in there, and then people would submit 10 games, and it's like, well, yes, you can submit 10 games, but I'm not going to do 10 of your games and then short 900 people. It made it kind of complicated to like have to jump around and figure out like whose game do we do and when and stuff. It wasn't too bad. By the way, bad guys getting cooked here. How does this go on for 28 turns? What is happening? But yeah, it's obviously not as important if we don't have a full queue. I have considered stopping doing viewer games. Like, not forever, but like... I don't know if people care. I mean, we got some nice comments in the notes, so... And people do seem to enjoy them. So I hope people are enjoying them. It's just one of those... I'm hoping when the Phobies... relaunch, we'll say, whenever the big update that we keep referring to and that the devs keep trying to have us look forward to happens, that we get a large enough infusion of people that we're back to the old days sort of thing. But until that happens, we're going to go with what we got. Once again, we get Halfy. Look, I gotta be honest, am I missing something? Why does everyone put Halfy on the board? I legitimately don't get it. I don't think Halfy's a very good phobie, and it seems like the better players agree with me. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe Halfy's actually very good and I'm just underrating it, but it feels like it constantly shows up and does precisely dick. Like, it does nothing. Minotaur should get MVP this game. I think the reason Misanthrope is going to get MVP this game is just because it survived so long. It came out very early. Avi's a cheap body blocker. So are all the 1 keys, and they cost literally half as much. Yeah, but it's used a lot in losing efforts. I guess I can understand the logic of why it is used. but it never seems to be a good thing to use. Speaking of things that are rarely good to use, we have Tiny Tim. I don't know about that guy. That seems like a mistake to include on the team. But those keys are now spent and gone. Alright, what level is this game? Oh, alright. This makes a lot more sense now when we have phobies that are like level 4. As always, no offenses intended, but I think we can all recognize when there are suboptimal phobies and suboptimal plays. 1.5k health compared to like 600 or 500. Just use Boomer. I didn't like it when people used Boomer. Just use Boomer or Tickles. It is still less health. Yes, that's 100% true. But the game is built around pick, counter pick, and opportunity cost. Or opportunity cost is a result of the pick, counter pick nature of the game. And spending more for... The value is going to be breakpoints. Is Haffy allowing you to survive through attacks that would matter otherwise if you had a 1 key that just died instead? And it just never feels like it matters. And maybe the players that are putting Haffy on the board are just not utilizing it properly, but it just never seems like it ever matters. I feel like you could have left Tiny Tim on the stem, or the panic point. It would mean that Miss Moffat could retreat, pull, and then Hydra could get 1 hit. Just like, who cares? You know, I don't think I ever really paid attention to little particles that float off of the phobies when they're poisoned. I wish Moly Bully and Tiny Tim were a little bit better, because I do think their attack animation is pretty cool. They just, like, stomp the living crap out of whatever they're attacking. I guess. Our hero's still with 4 keys and an open phobie slot. Are we going to see the Jin Sting? We are going to get a panic point advantage change momentarily. This one was weird. This is a very weird game, but, I mean, yeah. So, a funny thing, I know obviously these are, viewer games are by definition self-selecting. People are opting to submit the games. But it's funny, we were talking earlier about our potential tier lists, we'll say, for phobies that need to get dealt with. And if we're saying, like, Tier 1 is Doc Holliday sort of thing, Tier 2 is Sentinel sort of thing, and so on. I normally just group it by either they need to be dealt with or they don't. We haven't really seen, I mean, Billy we've seen, but we haven't seen Doc Holliday, like, ever. It very, very rarely shows up. I think we've seen it, like, twice. I think one of those times was in a losing effort. Also, I think it's fair that Misanthrope got MVP this game. It is attacked like 80,000 times, and it's been there since like turn 2. So I kind of get it. It just ran up the high score. But the reason I bring up Doc Holliday never showing up is I think it should highlight for people the importance of deciding who you're balancing the game for and around. Because if we're balancing it around high-level play, do I doubt that Do I doubt that Doc Holliday is doing a ridiculous amount of work? No. But if it isn't terrorizing all levels of play, we need to decide whether we're balancing around the best players in the game, all players, middle tier players, or some combination thereof. GG, by the way. All right, no notes for this game, but our hero, Painful Fate, is going up against Local Dingus. That's hilarious. That's genuine laughter. Local Dingus. All right, let's see what our hero and bad guy have in store for us. Ah. Oh, chat. I am sleepy. That's why I started the stream a little early tonight. Get done a little earlier. I gotta go to bed. I just haven't been sleeping very well all week. I've definitely gotten more sleep, but I think a combination of recovery. So it's both physical and mental exhaustion. There's a number of elements here. Can't quite finish off the Nerd Bird. We'll see if bad guy wants to preserve it. Oh, they're going in. Cassowary is fearless, apparently. Stabby almost bites the dust. You can probably clean these two up, but then you lose the Stabby. However, you could set up to kill the Gin Sting when it gets pulled in by the Stabby. Because I don't think there's any way for bad guy to preserve that. Or prevent that. Instead, bad guy's going for a 3-0 panic point advantage. A little creepy action. My grandpa's little chihuahua just chased off a German Shepherd and ran straight at me for pets. That sounds like a chihuahua. Got that little dog syndrome. No, that's a very dead Gin Sting. Bad guy just hemorrhaging Phobies left and right. Admittedly, big panic point advantage is stacking up. See if this murder wing dies. It does. It does in fact die. So our hero with a big key advantage. Arguably big key advantage. But they gotta stabilize some panic points soon. Gesundheit going down, squashing the germs. Wash your hands, everybody. Don't be touching your face. Does Creep always have that, like, pool of ooze underneath it? I feel like it doesn't. I kind of remember just seeing its little feet. Does it always have that pool of ooze? Guess we'll never know. Creep is dead. Jar's cooked. Panic points are being reclaimed. I feel as though you could have sent the Clinico in to reclaim that center panic point. Yeah, bad guy sacrificing a lot. Our hero giving up heart health to stabilize. Bad guy choosing to bank to 7. I can promise you that is not the correct move right now. I don't know if there is necessarily a correct move, because you're probably cooked as bad guy anyway. Shove Shark. So, our hero still refusing to put a flyer on the board to cap that top right panic point to try and stabilize. Instead, we get a pterodactyl pushing into a 3-1 panic point advantage. What? All right, why not? I wasn't really keeping track mentally of how much damage that stabby had taken. We got Eternal Night, we got Flail. Just knocking the shit out of this pterodactyl. And I could use some coffee right now, and it is way too late at night to be drinking coffee. I was doing okay in the beginning of the stream, but I am now reeling. Flail putting in work. We get another boop. Hopefully our hero is not just toying with them. Does not appear that they are. Bad guy dragging the game out for no reason. There is no advantage to this. What are we doing? How is there another turn after this? Please tell me our hero doesn't, like, peel back to go after the pterodactyl. No! Why? Honestly, you could have killed the... I guess it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. GG. Well played there, Senor Fate. Alright, we're going to close out with some PvZ games. Alright, PvZ, our hero, very first match of the tournament, Miss Cha hosted. Her rule set was Chevelle, Phantom, Billy, Doc, and the Sentinels banned if their lack of appearances was anything to go by. That's a weird structure for that sentence, because it kind of implies that you didn't know if they were banned. It sounds like they were banned. Which is how Monster of the Week works right now. These are all arena games. Stand ready for my arrival, worms. Who says that? Thanos? I can hear it in my head, but I don't know who says that. Maybe it's Darkseid? I don't know. Conquest from Invincible? Okay, so that's where I heard it. I feel like I've watched that entire show, but in 1-minute YouTube Shorts clips. I think I've seen, like, the entire show. You got a little Radiator action. Gotta love Radiator. So I don't know all the rules for Miss Chaw's tournament. I do know, I will comment on this, because somebody had asked me, why don't I run something like this? This being It sounds as though instead of running the event like on a singular day, it's run over a period of time, and players are paired for their match, and then you have 48, 72 hours to complete your match. And it's, up to the players to coordinate everything. And the reason why I'll comment on it is because I've run that format before, and it was a nightmare. It's the same sort of issues that I have with Monster of the Week, where people would sign up and then choose not to play. Now, understandably, real life happens sometimes, and stuff interferes. But my issue at the time when I was running that sort of event was people would constantly... And it wouldn't be one person would disappear, because obviously there were rules to account for the scenario where, well, if one person's ready to play and the other person's non-responsive, what do? Well, you give a default win to the person that was trying to make an effort. But then you had to create really granular rules to handle, well, what if one person was ready and the other person wasn't, but then it flipped, or one person was ready, but then they didn't show up to the game they proposed, but the other person did, or like, there's a lot of combinations of things that can get screwed up. And the frustration of dealing with those things pushed me to move to single day events where it's just, this is when the event is happening. If you want to play in the tournament, you show up at that time. I'm very hopeful that Miss Cha and other people that are putting on tournaments will succeed, because I want them to. I don't think I am personally interested in running those sort of events anymore, because it is just way too much of a headache, because people will not put in the effort on average. And it only takes a couple of people to really make the event have a serious amount of problems. Like, it doesn't take a whole lot for it to go sideways very quickly. But, all that aside, we've got an Undertaker. Paddles. This is the second paddles we've seen today for I don't know what reason. Just ripping the tickles from the void. Undertaker, I think, is a good example of what we were talking about earlier, where the devs are kind of breaking the rules with the game and really pushing the envelope. But this one actually worked out, whereas a number of the other phobies that people are complaining about are just kind of blanketly powerful. And they just do something ridiculous that was already known to be good. They just take the thing that was already good and make it better. Like Doc Holliday. Billy to a degree, because it's just like, well, what if you had more actions? Whereas Undertaker is doing something new and interesting, but they managed to cost it in a way that it isn't seemingly oppressive. Maybe it is... if we deal with all the other problems, maybe? I don't know. We'll see. There's a radiator. How many actions do they get when it comes back? One immediate action, okay. Because I was going to say, like, why not move it up and get the AoE hit, but it only gets one action. Spitting on the Hevo. I love how Phobies get revived. It is really cool. Like, Undertaker, despite the rather bland name, is a very interesting phobie. I can't wait for the inevitable Undertaker 2.0 that revives Phobies for 1 key less, but like they die again at end of turn or something. Boom, the big ol' radiator hit. Ruh-roh. We're getting a lot of spread damage here because the 3 kill takedown. Well played. I'm looking at the damage. I'm like, that's getting spread around a lot. That seems weird. Yeah. Either way, bad guy on the ropes here. Was that burrow really necessary? Got a 5-0 panic point advantage, a whole bunch of damage on the heart, and 1K will seal it. GG. Well played. Well played. All right, last game of the evening, chat. Got a longer game here. Once again, PvZ closing it out for us. Final match of the losers bracket that decided who was in second place and who was in third for Miss Chaw's tournament. It's a good one. I'll be the judge of that. As soon as I mark this game as reviewed, so I don't forget. There we go. Undertaker's really fun. I really don't see him being problematic. There's a world where he's problematic. I don't know if it's this one. The penny dropped. Interesting. Imagine if the devs introduced an actual tournament mode that players could coordinate and schedule tournaments in client. Be sick, right? I don't think it'll ever happen. Benny coming out to play. Remember when everybody's like, oh man, Benny's going to be so good. I don't think anybody said Benny was going to be broken. But I remember a lot of people being very excited for Benny. And I remember being extremely whelmed. At best. Pop goes the AWOL. Actually, a lot of people were doubting it before its actual stats were shown. Were they? I remember a lot of people. I mean, I think Potenzio was very excited by it. But I remember a lot of people being very, very anxious for Benny's release. And he's fine. He doesn't really seem to have a place at the moment. Also, we're just getting a standoff here, apparently. So we're just going to trade 1 keys. Like we're way back in Heebie-Jeebies 3. Big investment from our hero, Hevo 2.0. Tenzi was excited when he saw it. It was going to be a resurrect turret. Well, yeah, that's why people were like, oh, it's going to be so good because it's a resurrect turret. It can leech life. It's going to force your opponent to go out of their way to kill it. All this stuff. And it just hasn't really done anything. I don't feel like it shows up all that often. Get a little rate chargels action. Cowbell can't make up its mind. Getting the boop. Getting the boop. results in a dead cowbell, but the big displacement is the big deal. Goon rounding out the team. Bad guy with 7 keys remaining. They're going to have to make a pretty big statement play here because they kind of feel locked out. This is going to be a very difficult position to assail. Chip a little bit of damage here. That's fair. Heal up the Great Chargels. Erratic is the penultimate phobie. And blue. Gotta love blue. Of all the phobies, I think somebody needs to 3D print blue the most. Cassowary trading its life for the blue. I don't know if that's really necessary. But either way, a triple panic point advantage for our hero. And as mentioned before, I don't really know how bad guy assails this. You have to funnel through some choke points because you never bothered with a terraformer. And your opponent, our hero, has displacement, and they have a bomb. So when you have to conga line in through those choke points, you're going to get that big hit, potentially. Benny allowing the boom to trade there with Stabby. Pretty solid. Got Tooth Fairy as the final phobie. Both players out of keys here. And I'm not really sure what bad guy does. Going after Tooth Fairy is a choice. You don't really get the body block here, because you can lob around it. The panic point's flipping the other way, and we're even on phobies. And boop. Oh, the ray doesn't go down. Not quite enough damage from that goon to take it out here. But the displacement on the erratic is kind of all that matters. It's possible that maybe the Evo dies here. This prevents an easy bomb from the goon. But, I mean, it's now 2 phobies to 1. Got a resurrect phobie and against an erratic. The erratic is just cooked. You'd need some very strange math for that to work out. You know, by kiting our hero and then life leeching enough, but that is not to be. We're getting the whole gang together. It's going to be a monster mash. There's a graveyard smash. And that's going to be a heart attack. Bwom. GG. Well played. Well played. Well, those are all the games we're going to do tonight, chat. We do still have some in the queue, but if you're interested in submitting your own games, hit up the Random Thoughts Discord. The link for that, of course, is in the description of this video. Or if you're watching it live on Twitch, ! Discord in the chat. But that's going to do it for tonight. We'll be back next week. At least that's the game plan. Barring catastrophe. As always, everybody, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And tune in next time for more Random Thoughts.